Shvara Parama Krishna Sakchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakaranam. 1 second. Shvara Parama Krishna Sakchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Vriksha Lakshavriteshu Surabhira Vipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shata Sambrama Sevyamanam Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Vendum Kvanantam Aravindam Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kala Sadvana Malya Vamshi Radnan Gadam Pranaya Keli Kala Vilasam Shyamam Tribangalalitam Niyata Prakasham Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yassa Sakalendriya Vritti Manti Pashyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achutam Anadim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhaktao Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Shatavatsara Sambragamyo Vayo Radhapi Manaso Munipungavana Sopyasti Yat Prapadasimnya Vichintya Tattve Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Saura Chaditum Jagadanda Kotim Yat Shakti Rasti Jagadanda Chayayatantaha Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yadbhava Bhavita Diyo Manujasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhushaha Suktaryameva Nagama Pratitaistu Vanti Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitavis Tabir Ye Eva Nijarupa Taya Kalabhi Goloka Eva Nivasat Yakilatma Bhuto Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santak Sadaiva Hridayeshu Velokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadimutishu Kalaniyamena Tishtan Nanavataram Akarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramapumanyo Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhapato Jagadanda Koti Koti Shashesha Vasudari Vibhuti Binnam Tadrama Nishkalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Maya Hiyasa Jagadana Satani Sute Traigunyatad Vishaya Veda Vitayamana Sadvavalambi Parasatvam Vishuddha Sattvam Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu Yapraninam Pratipalam Smaratam Upetya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jayatya Chastram Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijadamni Tale Chatasya Devi Mahesha Haridam Suteshu Teshu Te Te Prabhava Nichaya Vihitascha Yena Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Shristi Stiti Pralaya Sarana Shakti Rekha Jayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Viparti Durga Ichchanurupam Api Yasya Chateshtate Sa Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Shiram Yatada Vikara Vishesha Yogad Sanjayate Nahitatah Pratakasti Heto Yasham Bhutam Apitata Samupaiti Karyad Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Diparchareva Hidashantanam Abhyupetya Dipayate Vrivata Hetu Samana Dharma Yastadrageva Hicha Vishnu Chaya Vibhati Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Yakar Narnavalatre Bhajati Sma Yoga Nidramananta Jagadanda Saromakupaha Adhara Shaktim Avalambya Param Samurtim Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Yashaika Nishvasitakala Matavalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Natha Vishnur Mahansa Ihayasya Kala Vishesho Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Bhasmanyatasma Shakuleshu Nijeshu Tejaha Swiyam Kiya Prakatayatta Fitadvadatra Brahmaya Esha Jagadanda Vidhana Karata Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Yatpada Pallava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvandve Pranama Samaye Sakanadi Rajaha Vignan Vinhantum Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahi Ganganamam Mumuru Dishascha Kalastatatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vivavanti Vishanti Yamcha Govinda Mari Purusham Dhamaham Bhajami Yachchakshudesha savita sakala grahanam Raja samasta suramurti rashesha tejaha Yasyagnaya brahmati sambrita kala chakro Govindamari purusham dhamaham bhajami Dharmo tapapa nichaya shrutayastapamsi Brahmarikita patagavadayascha jivaha Yadatra matra vibhava prakata prabhava Govindamari purusham dhamaham bhajami Yastvindra gopamatavendra mahosva karma Bandhanurupa palabhajanam atanoti Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam Govindamari purusham dhamaham bhajami Yam krodha kama sahaja pranayari bhiti Vatsalya moha guru gaurava sevya bhavahai Sanchintya tassa sadrishim tanamapurete Govindamari purusham dhamaham bhajami Govindamari purusham dhamaham bhajami Sri Akanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Dhruva Bhumishchintamani Ganamayi Toyamamratam Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Api Bhamshi Priyasaki Chidanandam Jyoti Paramapi Tadasvadyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradvi Sravati Surabhi Vyasya Sumahan Nimeshadhyakyo Vavratati Nahi Atrapi Samayaha Vaje Shweta Dvipam Tamaham Yaha Golokamityam Vidantaste Shantakshiti Viralachara Katipaye Atovacha Mahavishnur Bhagavantam Prajapatim Brahman Bahatva Vignane Prajasarga Chichinmatihi Pancha Shlokim Imam Vidyam Vatsatatvam Nibodame Prabhude Jnana Bhaktivya Mayananda Chinmayi Udetunatama Bhaktir Bhagavat Prema Lakshana Pramanaistat Sadacharaistatadabhyasir Nirantaram Bodhayanat Manatmanam Bhaktim Apyuttamam Labhet Yasya Shreyaskaram Nasti Yaya Nivritum Apnuyad Yasarayati Mameva Bhaktim Tameva Sarayed Dharmananyan Parityaja Mamekam Bhaja Vishwasan Yadrishi Yadrishi Shraddhas Siddhir Bhavati Tadrishi Kurvan Nirantaram Karma Loko Yamadavartate Tenaiva Karmana Dhyayan Mam Param Bhaktimicchati Aham hi Vishwasya Characharasya Vijambradhanam Prakriti Pumamscha Maya hitam teja idam vibarshi vide videhi tomato jaganti Ishvara Parama Krishna Sakchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Iti Sri Brahma Samhita Sampurnam Hari Om Sri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai. How is everyone so far? Yeah. Realizations for the week? Anything you've realized, internalized this week? Go right ahead.
My realization was that time is very, very short. These days especially, I have no idea where it goes. I plan to do 6 things, I end up doing only 3, like that.
Radhanath Maharaj he prefaced some of his lectures with the value of time. while we were just doing all these lectures around the Bay Area. And then in one that particularly struck me, and I brought up to him several times during the week that I really liked, was that time can't be tasted. We can't see it, we can't smell it, but it dries up oceans and it burns out the sun. I was thinking about how powerful time is. And it's Krishna's representative in the material world, so even in the angst of time going by and feeling this mighty force, we can also connect with Krishna, as he says to Arjuna in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that's me, I'm time. It's a way to stay in touch. Thank you. Mukharvin?
Maharaj, on the Wednesday class, you given one very nice analogy, and I used to so many my friends, and they like it very much, that you told like lottery. This human form is like you have got lottery, and you put like all the different species in that lottery, and you have got this one human form. It is so profound, like whenever I tell, like really it struck to people that how it is a lottery and we got this and we should take the opportunity.
You quote a verse about that?
Manushyanam, no,
Any
Bahu
verse?
sambhavante manusya piya.
Labham sudurlabhamidam bahusambhavante. Marushamartadam anityamadiha apihadhira. 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Labham sudurlabhamidam bahusambhavante. You can look it up in the
11.9.29.
11.9.29 in your shloka book. It's that pink book there. What page?
275. 275.
275. The Shastra reminds us of the same thing repeatedly. 279. 275. I'll say then, please repeat. Labha sudurlabhamidam bahusambhavante. So labha means having obtained. Sudurlabham, that which is very difficult to obtain. Idam, this. Bahu, many. Sambhava, births. Ante, after. So now that after many, many births, you have obtained that which is very difficult to obtain. So important to always remember the gift that we've received in the human form of life. No time to be morose and worry about the smaller things in life. Another great lesson I learned from Radhanath Swami's lectures last week. So much I'm going through my head just listening to all those, but one of them was his talk at Stanford, and he mentioned the 4 entities that were taught to a disciple about the qualities of necessary to attain self-realization. So one of them was that one must be like the crane. And the crane, you like the crane? What do you like about the crane? Yeah, go ahead.
I like how the little fish are small problems and the big fish is the goal. And then I think it's the crane. My aunt was telling me about this yesterday, so I don't remember too much.
So the crane stands in the water on one leg and he stares straight into the water. And he's just perfectly still watching all the little fish go by. But when the big fish comes by, grabs. And the phrase I like, it's cliche, but choose your battles. Choose your battles. And this idea that we've attained the rare human form of life. So remember that there's a higher purpose. We don't need to be swept away by all the smaller things, smaller problems. Then, Manushya martadam anityam apihadhira. So Manusha means the human form of life, which is very special. Imagine what it takes to put together such a machine that has the ability to contemplate the Supreme. Artadam means which awards great value. That value is specifically in the ability to ask this question, why am I here? In fact, there's an Upanishad called the Kena Upanishad. Kena means why. It's the whole thing, whole Upanishad. Why? Just ask that question. Why? Whoever stops to ask that, but the Upanishads say, stop and ask this question. Why am I here? So then it says, anityam. It's not eternal. So this was another point Radhanath Maharaj brought up, that he said it's not, in the human life, it's not quantity, it's quality. And he quoted from the Srimad Bhagavatam, a verse from Shukadeva Goswami. It says, better a moment of full clarity than an entire life wasted in the animal activities of life, animalistic activities of life. And he gave the examples of these trees that stand for thousands of years. But what can they do, really? But human life, even in a very short amount of time, it appears to me nowadays that people live about 80 years. 80, 85, something like that. I mean, after that, although people live, there's often not a lot of productivity because there's dwindling in health. At least that's just been my observation in this life. I saw my parents, they both died at around 90, 91. But after 85, 87, it started getting a little more difficult. So, it's a nityam, take advantage while you can. Take advantage while you have the opportunity. Nityam apihadira, that's one should become sober. Sober. Take advantage of it. Next line. Turnam yatetana pated anumritya yavan. So Turnam means immediately. You know from the song of the six Goswamis, Chakva Turnam Ashesha Mandalapadi Shrenim Sadatuchava. Turnam means they immediately gave up their aristocratic life and ran off with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when they saw the opportunity. So this verse is saying the same thing. Turnam, as soon as you see it, as soon as you understand what this opportunity is, don't hesitate. Never hesitate. Turnam yateta, you should endeavor for this. From whatever situation you're starting in, whatever opportunity you have now, take it. Na patet, before, patet means to fall, anumrityu, because the body is always, anumrityu, it's always subject to death at any moment. We can't assume that it will give us 80 years even. At any time it can go. So it's turnam yateta napated anumritya yavan. As soon as you understand the importance, immediately take advantage of that. And then last line, nirshayasaya vishaya kalu sarvatasyad. So nirshayasaya means for ultimate liberation. That's what you should use the body for. Vishaya means sense gratification. Kalu means always. Sarvatra, in all conditions. Syat is possible. So this last line means that you should look around and see that sense gratification is available everywhere. We get this realization often walking around Govardhan Hill. Because as we're walking and walking, you have nothing to do but observe, chant and observe. And you can see lots of monkeys and the pigs and the birds, and they're all simply engaged in really low sense gratification. And if it's free for them, it's not very valuable. And then walking back through the airports in Delhi and New Jersey, Bombay, Thailand, everywhere, and see all the duty-free signs, and everyone's advertising. You have to have cigarette, or you have to have some whiskey. But it's special whiskey. It's older than the others. All these advertisements, one should remember, these things, sense gratification is available to the lower animals, so it's not very valuable. Although in this world it may be sometimes glamorized, it may be presented as something very valuable. Don't think it's valuable. It's not valuable. Let it go. Let it go by. Let other people who don't have the proper consciousness take it. But you don't take it. Take what's most invaluable. Other realizations? Yes, Harivamsha and then Shalabhavu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Throughout this week I had a realization that time is also very powerful, and as you were mentioning in the Wednesday class, that do expect surprises from the material world. It can immediately turn. And I was connecting with what I heard in one lecture, that in material world there is so much thing going about time management, manage your time management. But the problem is that people look it from the angle of that time is a utility. But devotees consider that time is an energy of Krishna. And when they see certain reversals of time, etc., they just, in a mood of awe and reverence, they can take lessons rather than, just getting worried, oh, I didn't manage my time properly, like that.
Very interesting, yeah. Actually seeing that this is Krishna coming to get me or trying to remind me of something, right? Very nice. Shalabahu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So, last week from the Radhanath Mahaswami's class in the Stanford, one of the things he mentioned, it stuck with me, that he mentioned the humbleness is like a good fruit tree. The trees with a good fruit bounce down. So he was saying if the quality is there, they always have that humble and that nature. And I told my wife, she asked me, what do you learn? So I told her this is something. And she said, that's good, I need to write that in my journal. I thought that's a good thing.
Yeah, very practical. Krishna starts in the 13th chapter, 8th verse, mentioning the process of knowledge, and the first two items, amanitvam, adambhitvam. Surprisingly, to the materialistic mind, humility and pridelessness are the two that are necessary for actually getting knowledge. One must be open. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The crane example goes very well with your saying that don't major in minor things.
Don't major in minor things, yeah.
Yeah, I just was correlating that part. And then also I had a realization, you do your little bit, then Krishna, wait for his magic. I was asking one of my, my relative to invite her CEO for the Radharanath Swami's lecture. Somehow, I thought, he's not interested and all that, but I said, let's do our part, you invite. And then he couldn't come here, he couldn't come to the another place, but somehow he managed to go to Stanford. And then we got an email back that this is the best 2 hours he spent, and he took his brother. I think he also liked it very much. So, we would be very reluctant. He's not interested or not. We are, we prejudge the outcome of the situation. We just do our karma and then wait for Krishna's magic. I was so happy to hear his email back that he's...
Isn't it satisfying? And this is one of the benefits of giving Krishna consciousness to others, is that we get to relive it, that experience of discovering it for ourselves over and over again. Vicariously, we see in others the great discovery, and then we remember how ever fresh and wonderful it is by constantly giving it out. And you never know. And it is true that the mind prejudges, says, oh, this person's not interested, that person. But if we just overcome the mind, and as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked us to do, wherever you go, whomever you meet, give them the opportunity, then we'll stay ever enlivened. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that one who teaches Krishna consciousness to others has life. And then he said, when you teach Krishna consciousness to others, you get life. You become alive. What else? Other realizations from anywhere, anything?
I went to the dentist this week.
Condolences.
So, it's never pleasant, the experience. But somehow the lady who was cleaning this time, I really I was thinking that they are so far away from Krishna consciousness and all this, but still, there are good qualities in everybody if you look. Because, after she finished, she really, said, please forgive me if I give, it pained, we have to do this. And I was thinking, such nice qualities, and I was so moved by that. And I was thinking forgiveness is such a big thing. If asking for forgiveness and forgiving somebody, even we ask Krishna for forgiveness. It's so heart-moving, so I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and we see in the list of divine qualities that Krishna mentions in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, forgiveness is there. This is the emblem of an advanced person, able to forgive others. Oftentimes people judge people by their past. Some people judge people by their present condition. And the most advanced judge people by their future potential. And therefore, there's a way in which a very advanced person is very forgiving, like Krishna is very forgiving. In the Bhagavad Gita, he says, "Api chet sudaracharo bhajate mamanandya bhag, sadhureva samantavya samyag vyavasito hi saha." That if somebody's engaged in my service and they have display some worldly tendencies, you should forgive that. You should overlook it, because what they're doing, that even if they have a little forward progress in devotional service, what they're doing is so meritorious, so powerful, that what they'll become is something astounding, and we should consider that, not the situation they're in right now, and overlook those things, forgive them. What else? Realizations, yes.
I always think about one of the points you make, Prabhuji, in the lectures, like don't take anything for granted, especially regarding your spiritual life, given that we have the opportunity to come here, serve, associate with ourselves, always make sure, we are connected. So in that way we can improve.
Don't take anything for granted. That's a great art, isn't it? In the Gita, Krishna talks about the austerity of the mind is satisfaction. And then one must practice that, being satisfied. And if one is grateful and appreciates what I have now, and can see that, it's very nice. Mukaravind.
One of the points that Radhana Swami Maharaj made on Sunday lecture, Sunday feast lecture, I like is when he, I forgot why he quoted, but that Dhruva Maharaj, that in one of his, I think Narad Muni taught Dhruva Maharaj about how he should deal with seniors, equals and juniors, and I see that I always do opposite. With seniors, like is envious; with equals, you are competitor, and with juniors, you want to try to exploit. And I can at least see in my work life, I'm little fast in everything, and I see that some person, those who work under me, and then little so, then how much I become passionate, and then I told, oh, this is not the teaching that. that he's telling, then I have to compassion. So at least I can see that all tendencies are there in me, and I try to recover. But the solution he gave for seniors, you try to follow in their footsteps and serve them. For the equals, you try to encourage them and appreciate and in their services. And for juniors, you have to be compassionate. So that is very powerful.
Maharaj gave that example from the story of Dhruva Maharaj, that Narada Muni taught Dhruva that to overcome all the difficulties in life, become happy, if you act properly according to your relationship with each person. Those who are more advanced than you should offer service. And those who are equals, you should make appropriate friendships. Those who are lower than you should offer mercy. Just learning how to deal with each person properly. What is it exactly?
For the seniors, honor, respect, and follow what they do. Mm-hmm. For the equals, genuine well-wisher friend. Become their genuine well-wisher friend. And for the junior, compassion to lift them up.
Nice. Realizations, yes. Somebody was on the phone, go ahead. It's Malini. Go ahead, Malini.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji.
Little louder, Ramananda. Malini, go ahead.
Prabhuji, there are so many things that happened last week. It's very hard to digest everything right now, but one point that really struck me was the example that Maharaj gave about that lady in the Stanford program, and how she took the reversals or the difficulties that came in her life as an opportunity for her to grow and then continue on that way, and that actually gave her so much of strength. So I was just thinking the same thing, that so many things and difficulties come in our life, but instead of complaining and making that as an excuse, if we can make our consciousness in such a way that we can take as an opportunity for our growth in Krishna consciousness.
Nice. The Tate anukampam susumikshemano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam. Lord Brahma says that whatever is coming to me, I take it as, whatever adversities come to me in this life, I take it as Krishna's mercy. And that I've moved in such a way in this world that I've created these adversities for myself, and now Krishna is giving me a taste of them just so I can become purified. I can come to the highest stage. Without those, where would I have the impetus to grow? It's the basis of all self-help. It's the ultimate self-help. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do about what happens to you. Yes, Priya Kishori.
Yesterday I read one of the most worthwhile things that I've read from my education, and it was in my statistics class. Our teacher made us read something called Brainology. It was an article written by a Stanford professor. It was talking about fixed mindset, growth mindset, and the effect of appreciation on children in their growth. And the fixed mindset is when it was a study performed 5 times, which showed that when you appreciate kids for how smart they are, then they don't seem to grow. And when you appreciate them for how hard they work, they seem to grow more and do more than when they're appreciated for their intelligence. And it showed that the way in which we should appreciate people is based on how hard they work, how much effort they put. So I was thinking that in Krishna consciousness, we should always appreciate each other for our perseverance and our steadiness in our Krishna consciousness. And it was amazing because it was a scientist, and I was thinking if he was a devotee, this would be an amazing article.
Have we told you lately how much we appreciate your perseverance and steadiness in Krishna consciousness? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah, after Maharaj lectures, because he was repeating the Trinadapi Sunichana verse so often, and I read Mukharvind Prabhu's undersigned that the Yaya Vache Haya Matyam, that Dainyam, the verse in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, so went up to that, and I looked the next verse. So I was very much, kind of taken back. What it says, well, dainyam or utter humility is in people who are actually having that prema for Krishna. So I was just thinking how this utter humility and the ultimate goal of life are so intertwined, because we say Trinadapi Sunijana and then you can chant, and here Narad Muni is saying that when you can chant or when you have pure love for Krishna, you get that utter humility. So I was just meditating on this.
That's really nice meditation. Realization from hearing over and over again about these basic principles is that I never get tired of hearing them. They always seem satisfying. That it's practical, it's something where you can actually get traction. If I develop this humility, then immediately the world opens up to me in Krishna consciousness. I'm able to chant and so forth. The one thing that Maharaj said during the whole time that was most helpful to me and struck me the most deeply was about the salt. That one of the other qualities that the devotee must attain was salt. There's a whole long story he told, which I'll go through sometime and retell. Actually, I told it to the Japanese devotees yesterday during our class. But in it, there's a spiritual master that teaches a disciple and says, in order to attain self-realization, you must be like salt, you must be like a chicken, like a crane, and like yourself. And the disciple didn't know, he was like, what does that mean? And then he just walked away. He said, that's all I'm going to tell you. And then he went back over 7 mountains, 400 miles, back to his spiritual master, and he said, who had sent him to this other teacher, because he said, I'm not qualified to tell you about the qualities of a self-realized person. So he went there for this other teacher, and he waited 6 months, and he performed all kinds of heavy austerity and services, and the person just told him to wait, I'll tell you later. And then that's what he told him. Then he went home. He told his spiritual master. Spiritual master said, so what did you learn? He said, well, he told me I should be like salt, a chicken, crane, and like myself. I don't understand anything. And his spiritual master said, oh, that's wonderful. What examples. These are so beautiful. And then he explained them. And what a climatic experience in that lecture that Maharaj gave at Stanford. He was like, well, what is it? Tell us. And then he unpacked each one of them. But the salt really struck me. So I'll say the salt was that salt is necessary for any kind of cooking, and not too much and not too little. But nobody notices the salt. It's an absolutely foundational part of the cooking. And at the same time, you don't mention it. You don't say that this really good salt, the salt really tastes good. You say, oh, the vegetable's good, the preparation's nice. You know, and so a self-realized person, or a person who's endeavoring for self-realization, should be supporting others, consider oneself a servant. Amanina manadena, giving but not expecting anything in return. And this is very satisfying, actually. It's counterintuitive to the mind influenced by the ego that wants to appropriate every situation and say, that's mine, that's for me, now's my chance. But going the opposite way, actually, just that one practice of taking the position of salt, serving without expecting any reward externally, and without expecting praise for one's service or anyone to notice one's service. For instance, service for service is so satisfying, and gives one this internal realization that actually Krishna is the one that we're trying to please, not my false ego and so forth. But that one meditation is very powerful. It relates to Trinada Pusunichena in a very practical way. Anyone want the last word? Everyone wants the last word, okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
We all, it's known that time is short, but as we step out of the temple or from the association, we get back to our normal life and we started thinking, I'm going to live forever. How we create this sense of urgency in our mind to be reminded all the time so that we do the right thing?
Well, you may not be able to live in a state of constant angst that you're going to die at any moment. It's really not possible. Until that time comes when you really are going to die, then in the interim, in the meantime, you can take smaller chunks of time and create some goals, some urgency. Forced efficiency, it's called. When you know that I'm not able to fix my mind on the fact that I'm going to die at every second. You won't be able to actually be a balanced human being in that way. But you should be aware of it to some degree. But in the interim, you can make goals that will keep you moving forward in your devotional service and that you feel eager for. For instance, we, in our service here at ISV, every month we have a new goal, right? And we feel some anxiety about it, that we have to make this goal. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And we push for it. And similarly, in our individual sadhana, we should also have such goals. Sankhya purvaka namagana natibi kalavasani krito, following the footsteps of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, who fixed for themselves these goals that they're working towards. And there should be a sense of that I need to make these, that some kind of quantitative goal that you have to do every day that keeps you in that realm. And as you continue hearing, then the awareness of what's important in life, the foundation, even as you work in the world and do all kinds of other things, will not leave you, and you'll remain conscious and separate from the consciousness of working in the material world for some temporary pleasure. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yujyata mayarpita manobuddhir mami vaishyatya samshayaha. In the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives this momentous instruction to Arjuna. He says that therefore, and he's saying therefore because he's mentioning the time of death. And Arjuna asks about it. How do I remember your time of death? And Krishna said, well, first of all, know this, that whatever you remember at the time of death, you're going to attain that. And then he said, if you fix your mind on me, you'll attain me. And then he said, tasmat, therefore, sarveshu kalishu, at all times, all places, you should remember me. But then he said, and you should go on working, still do your work. You can't stop. It doesn't mean just if you stop working, if you stop interacting and doing what you're obligated to do, that you'll be able to remember him more. No, he says, go on chanting. In fact, Prabhupada clarifies in the purport that if you go on chanting Hare Krishna and doing your work at the same time, you'll have, there's a way in which you'll actually gain more. This is brought up in the Shri Upanishad. Vidyam chayas tadvedo bayam saha avidyayam ratum tirtva vidyayam ratum ashnute. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. So this dichotomy, you're cultivating Krishna consciousness, you're still going out in the world and doing your work, then you'll have more realization as you do your work. You'll see things in relationship with Krishna, and you'll not be influenced by them. Rather, you'll be influenced to be more Krishna conscious. Now we're going to sing a song from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's teachings. Yes, go ahead, Hansapriya.
Yes, Prabhuji. I think I really liked your point about that, continue doing work, and that will help us to attach more towards Krishna consciousness. And actually, it's so true, because every time Radhanath Swami comes or any great Swami comes, and even on regular basis, when I go back to work, as some in small or big extent, I feel like this is not the place I want to be all the time. So it helps me to more, help me with my rounds, help me with whatever service I'm doing, with a little more attention or with more focus. So I just wanted to say that it's so true that, the both is helping me to, continue in my Krishna consciousness. It's like a salt, it's like, going to the work and...
Nice. So you have the practical realization after getting good association. When you go back, you can see, I'm doing this, but this is not me.
Yeah.
Not my eternal occupation.
Yeah. And that makes me feel this more and more clear where I really should go or want to go.
Nice. Thank you very much, Hansapriya.
Thank you, Guru.
So today we're going to take some lessons from the story of Ajamila, who was, in the beginning of his life, a dutiful Brahmin, very clean, performed the rituals given to him by his family and through scriptures and so forth. He was very, actually, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, mostly in karma kanda, following the parts of the scriptures through which one can balance one's life in the material world or make some adjustment to become happier in the mode of goodness and so forth. And he had some connection with Krishna through the scriptures and so forth, but in a dutiful way. But then he, because of past impressions, when coming upon a scene of sense gratification, he saw a a man and woman embracing in public, which was a rare scene at the time. And they were intoxicated. And somehow that just, as he saw it, he just walked by them and he saw it, it stuck in his mind. And he couldn't shake it. And then somehow or other, this feeling overwhelmed him, and he gave up his position as a dutiful Brahmin, and actually he went and sought out that woman who was a prostitute, and he had her move in, kicked his wife out, started a whole new life of wanton sense enjoyment, began a nefarious lifestyle and livelihood, and became wholly degraded. And then, of course, because of his previous connection with Krishna consciousness, out of sentiment, he named his youngest son, and he had many sons, he named him Narayan, a name for Krishna. And then, throughout his little boy's childhood, Ajamila was calling out his name, Narayan, please come here, and Narayan, please take your food. And he was very much attached to this young boy. And he was in his 80s when he had this child. And then he came to the point of death. And at death, the Yamadutas, who are messengers from Yamaraj, who metes out the punishments for those for their purification who are engaged in sinful activities, sent his messengers, the Yamadutas. And they felt completely justified in grabbing the soul. There's a way in which, as described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, at the time of death, for a person who's been very sinful, then they're apprehended and they're taken for some heavy purification. But they're grabbed by the subtle body, by these subtle ropes, and then they're dragged out. So the Yamadutas had actually put the ropes, and then the Vishnudutas, messengers from Lord Narayan, came and they stopped them. You can see the picture, they're holding out their weapons, they stop, you can't take him, he's ours. So this argument ensued, and the Yamadutas said, how can you say that? According to all scriptures, everything, he's completely degraded, and he's committed all these sins. So he's ours. And then the Yamaduta said, you don't understand anything about Scripture. And this is actually a story that is being passed on from Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, and it mentions at the very last section that Shukadeva Goswami had heard it from another sage, so these have been passed down. And the 5th canto, which precedes this story of Ajamila, was a description of the material universe. And in the material universe, there's also a description of the lower planetary systems, where there's sort of hellish life, great suffering, and even punishment. So then it starts off in the 6th canto where Parikshit Maharaj, being a Vaishnav, who is Paradukha-dukhi, he suffers because of hearing about the suffering of others. He wants to know, how can these people be freed from this suffering in the material world, and especially hellish life? And that's when Shukadeva Goswami tells this story. And the gist of it is that those who chant the Lord's names will never be subjected to the Yamadutas, never be subjected to these hellish planets, and so forth. And the Vishnudutas explained to the Yamadutas that the chanting of the name of God is so powerful that it rectifies the person's sinful activities, rectifies his sinful position in this world. It eradicates all the sins that a person can accumulate even in this life. And it's a very profound section and very encouraging for the sadhana that we're performing, especially with faith, taking shelter of God's names and chanting them repeatedly, that this is the main practice that we have. So we'll go over some various aspects, a few lessons from the story of Ajamila, And first we'll sing a song from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in which one of the most important instructions for those who are interested in perfecting their sadhana is given. Should I say what it is? Nam bina kichu nahi ko aur choda bhuvana maji. He says in Bengali that there's nothing else to be had in the 14 worlds. And that's a lot of worlds. It includes all the shopping areas. It includes all the picnic areas, all the scenic areas, everything. Everything in the 14 worlds. There's nothing else to be had except for the holy name. Profound statement. Someone might say, but what about this? What about 14 worlds? Nothing else to be had. Nothing to be seen here. Just move along. Take the holy name. So when one sits down for meditation, one must have this determination to focus on the holy name. The mind will make all kinds of suggestions. As Krishna says in the Gita, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parta manogatan. This, Krishna says, manogatan, what does the mind do? He says, it goes. Manogatan means the mind goes, the mind goes, the mind goes. It just goes. Where does it go? Everywhere. And it suggests all kinds of stupid, crazy, wild things. And 1 minute, I'll be focused on something, and next minute I'm doing something else, and someone might even, observing me, say, how did you get from here to here? And it's like, I have no idea. And that's how we move in the material world, from one body to the next, by the force of the mind. It carries me from one situation to the next. And therefore, this yoga means to fix the mind on one point. And in this chapter of Ajamila, we learn that the most merciful form of the Lord is His holy name. Vacho vachakam ityudeta bhavato nama swarupa dvayam. There's Krishna and His name, and they are the same. They are the same. There's no difference. But then Rupa Goswami says, but they're different. It's like, what? So poetically he says, vacham vachakam. The vacham, the named and the named. The name and the named. They have a difference in quality, because although one may offend Krishna, the name still avails himself, and if one simply chants the name, then one will be intimately connected with the named and will be brought into the realm of bliss. So the name is so merciful that He extends Himself all over the universe. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, don't look for anything else. Tell your mind there's nothing else to be had in the 14 worlds. And if you get this one thing, then you'll have everything else. That's reassuring, isn't it? And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, in various places, Vedeshu, Yagyeshu, Tapasu Chaiva, Yat Kaleshu, Yat Punya Palam Pratishtam, Atyeti Tat Sarvamidam Vaditva, Yogistanam, Param Upaiti Divyam. Thank you. That's... there's all these other paths. There's all these other things that you can do. Vedeshu, you can really get into studying the Vedas. Vedeshu, tapasu, you can perform all kinds of tapasya. What else? Yagyeshu, performing yagyas of different... He said, but if someone becomes devoted to me, he said, you'll not lack in any of these other things. One stop shopping. Go this one place. So, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partan manogatan. Krishna defines the advanced yogi as one who is able to overcome this mind just going and going. So the way to do it, the meditation is Nam bina kichu nahi ko ar choda bhuvana maje. There's nothing else to be had in the 14 worlds except the holy name. And this description, Udila Aruna, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu going out and distributing the holy name. He went early in the morning when the sun was rising, town to town, teaching everyone, chant Hare Krishna, and then all these instructions come. And this tatai, tatai is the sound of the kirtan. It sounds tatai, tatai, bhajaloko gana gana, tari jajera roll. There's the madungas, and there's these hand cymbals, the wampers going, and all that sound. It's so joyful, and it and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body is shaking in love of God as he's singing it. Keep going. We'll just look at the 3 and 4. Mukunda Madhava Jadava Hari. So he says, chant all these names. Mukunda Madhava Jadava Hari, Bolina Bodhore Varana Bodhi. Miche nida bashe gelo rirati dibashe shari rashaje. Your life is temporary, miserable. Miche nida bashe. Miche means useless. Translation. Under the control of sleep. And then, yeah.
Lord Chaitanya called out to the townsfolk, you spend your nights uselessly sleeping and your days decorating your bodies. Now just fill your mouths with the vibration of the holy names, Mukunda, Madhava, Yadava, Hari, chanting without offense.
You have achieved the rare human body. Don't you care for this gift? If you do not serve the darling of Yashoda now, great sorrow awaits you at death. Each time the sun rises and sets, a day passes and is lost. Then why do you remain idle and refuse to serve the Lord of the heart? Understand this essential fact. Life is temporary and full of all kinds of miseries. So make it your only business to take shelter of the holy name and always engage in his service. Desiring to bless all souls, the sweet name of Krishna has descended to the material world and now shines like the sun in the sky of the heart, destroying the darkness of ignorance. Drink the pure nectar of the holy name of Krishna and thus satisfy the soul of Bhakti Vinod. There is nothing but the holy name within all the 14 worlds. Udilo aruna pura babage Dwijamani Gauramani Jage. Bhakata Sambuva Loya Sate Gela Nagara Braje. Tatai tatai bajaloko gana gana tae jajeraro. Preme dhalla dhalla sonaranga Sharane nupura baje. Mukunda Madhava Jadava Hari Bole na bolore vadana bori. Miche nida bashe gelore rati dibasha sharira shaje. Imana dulaba manava deho paya kikoro bhavana keho. Ebena bajile jashoda suta charame pori belaje. Udita tapanna hoile asta dinagelo bole hoibe byasta. Tabekino ebe alasha hoy nabajari doya raje. Nitya Janahasar Thainana Vida Vipadabha Namashaya Kori Jatane Tumi Taka Panakaje Jivera Kalyana Sadhanaka Jagate Asiye Madhuryanam Abhidyati Mira Tapana Rupe Ridgagani Biraje Krishna Nam Shuddha Kori Apan Jurau Bhakati Vinoda Pran Nambina Kichu Nahiko Aro Choda Bhuvanamaje. There it is. One more time. Nambina Kichu Nahiko Aro Choda Bhuvanamaje. There's nothing but the holy name to be had in the 14 worlds. Shiv Jago, Jiv Jago, Gaura Chandra Bole. Kota Nidra Jao Maya Pishachira Kole. It's alright, I got it. I don't need it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhaji Baboliya Eshe Sangsara Vitare Bhuliya rohile tumi abhijara bhare. Made a promise to serve the Lord, but now you've forgotten that promise. Hey, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tumare lohite ami Huinu avatara. I've descended to this world just to save you. Ami bina bandhu aro ke ache tomara. Other than me, who is really your friend? Hey, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Enechiya Shauri Maya Nashibaro lagi. I've brought the medicine to cure the disease, Maya. Harinama Maha Mantra Lao Tumi Magi. You should beg for the holy name and take it. Hey! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thakur Bhakti Vinoda Prabhu Charane Poriya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur fell at the Lord's lotus feet. She Hari Nama Mantra Loilo Magiya. Bhaktivinoda begged for the holy name, and he received it. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So what about that? If you were convinced that there's nothing else to be had in the 14 worlds except the holy name, what would you do? Just chant all the time, right? So, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Suridanish Choy Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. This is the definition of faith, that by chanting Hare Krishna, everything else is done. Nothing else needed. So, as one's conviction in this, in the holy name, that it's all powerful, all merciful, everything exists in the holy name. As one sadhu in Vrindavan told me once, he was fasting and some devotees were asking, when are you going to eat? He said, all vitamins are there in the holy name. Then one's sustenance in life, not that we have to fast. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't fast very much. That the point is that from all the other ideas and all the other desires, we're fasting from that. From CNN, we need that. It's a simply disturbance to go all around the universe in a 24-hour news cycle and agitate the mind to think this, that. How do I control this situation? How do I make up for that? Why do people do this or why do people do that? But if I become more concentrated on my own ability or inability to focus on the one thing that is told to me in Shastra as the divine source of everything, and the person who is embodied in that name, who's personified, who the name personifies, that is my best friend, my eternal friend. Sanitya Nitya Sambandha Prakritischa Paraivasa is the ultimate goal of life, to reconnect. Then the more I have this faith, and more I'm able to put my attention on the holy name, then the deeper my experience will be as I surrender to the process. And then it's not that I become inefficient in my life, but those who have this internal life of focus and faith in the holy name actually become proficient in everything that they do. And although they are moving and working in this world, they have the dual citizenship, and they're actually becoming more and more identified with their spiritual personality and relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Can we have a PowerPoint? So in the story of Ajamila, there's some very important instructions, and I'll just name a few lessons for today that we can take home, and that will help us in this concentration on the holy name. The first, let's look at this PowerPoint first, really quickly. Clearing the mist of ignorance. Go ahead. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatani. We offer obeisances to Srila Prabhupada as he came to deliver this holy name. Actually, I had a great pleasure last night of talking to Brahmananda Prabhu. Prabhupada's one of Prabhupada's first disciples, who now lives in Vrindavan. I talked to him for over an hour. For the book, I'm researching some things. He was telling me some things I'd never heard before. In fact, I wanted to know, how was it that Prabhupada got all those books he brought with him? You know, there he was, you know, all by himself with no money. He can pay somebody to do it. And I said, how did the trunks get moved? All these trunks full of books. According to Brahmananda, he brought about 600 sets of books. And he told me that the Scindia ship company moved them for him. It got off the ship, and they had a warehouse in Brooklyn. So they moved all those books to the warehouse. And later, Prabhupada sent Gargamuni, Brahmananda's brother, and himself to go pick up those trunks and bring them back to the temple. And then he had them tie the books together, the 3 volumes. And he said about 100 of them 200 of the sets didn't have the first canto, because Prabhupada already distributed it into other places. There's more, but so living entity has free will. We're a unit of consciousness, and just as the Lord has, He's the supreme autocrat. He can do whatever He wants at any time. So we're a minute particle of Him, and so we have our free will also. This is the greatest gift. And so we can choose. Here we see the 2 paths. We can choose Krishna, we can choose Maya. Keep pushing. Keep going. So there's this choice we have. Keep going. I should have brought my remote. But there's this way in which when we become purified to understand that by engaging in devotional service, that I have the choice. Krishna gives gives Arjuna the instruction in the Bhagavad Gita. Painstakingly, he instructs him in all different departments of knowledge. And at the end, what does he say? Now I've told you everything, you can do as you wish. Isn't it? So you do as you wish now. Techasi tata kuru, whatever you like, you can do. So now it's up to you. You can choose what you want. So there's always this choice. From minute to minute, we have this choice, Krishna or Maya. So it's the there's an ecstasy at every moment when we exercise this choice to choose Krishna. We're looking for these small victories at every moment. We may think of surrender in big terms, think that, it has to be demonstrative, and that there's some big ceremony that, of course, there are such things. But even in our own life, from moment to moment, behind closed doors, as we choose Krishna over Maya, and as we inform our intelligence more and more through the instructions of Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, we become more acutely aware of what those choices are, and then we get to make them. This is real happiness in life. So the Shastra says, when the living entity desires to enjoy separately from Krishna and turns away from him, the illusory potency of the Lord Maya immediately takes the soul within her clutches. Prema Vaivarta, go. And then there's this whole mechanism in the material world through which we try to enjoy the illusory temporary energy, and we become controlled. Go. And through the force of varied consciousness that we attain by association with the 3 modes of material nature, Purusha prakriti stohi bhunte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sarasad yoni janmasu. We're forced because of our association, we pick up various modes of nature, and then our consciousness becomes colored, and because of that we catch on to different kinds of situations in this material world, good and bad. And this is a great suffering for the soul in a very unstable situation. You can see from this dramatic picture of how this rotation goes on and on and on until there's some kind of intervention. Go. So agyata sukriti means that unknown pious credit comes to us in our life. And the Shastra describes how devotees who are roaming the world give this agyata sukriti. So this is a story from the Kartik Mahatmya, how one Kartik, there was a mouse living on the altar. And sometimes you'll see in India the mice, They live in the altar. Pujaris don't seem to mind too much. And this particular mouse mentioned in the Shastra was, he would live by eating the ghee wicks that weren't completely spent. I mean, that's a pretty good life, eating pure ghee every day. He would just find the ghee wicks that weren't all the way burned out, and he would, come suck on them. And he was quite plump. And so one day he came out of his little hole, he found a ghee wick, go back. He was chewing on it, and it hadn't quite extinguished yet, and it caught fire again, and meanwhile it caught onto his tooth, and so it couldn't get loose. So he was on the altar, and because of the heat of the flame and trying to get it off his tooth, the flame came up and he started jumping in front of the altar. So Lord Narayan was there, and he said, oh, he's offering artik. Little mouse offering artik. So this is Krishna's mercy. As mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Aho Bhakiyam Stanakalakutam, Uddhava says, oh Krishna, who would take shelter of anybody else? Because, look, he saved Putana. Putana came to kill him, and she put poison on her breast, and she acted like his mother. And so Krishna killed her, took the poison, took her milk, cooked her life air, killed her, and then said, she tried to be my mother. So I'll give her this special liberation. Vimukti he gave her. And so Uddhava is saying, who would take shelter of anybody else? So Krishna gave this mouse the benefit that, okay, he was offering artik. So in his next life, he became highly situated a devotee, and then he went back to Godhead after that. Haribo! So if you see a little mouse on the altar, have some special appreciation. Okay. So the Sagyata Sukriti can come to us in any way. Devotees go out, you see, and present to people. I love this picture. You can see the sincerity of the devotee who's distributing a book, and then the woman's face is sort of, she's inquisitive, and she's also sort of caught by the situation. Here's a young person offering her something, and she's accepting. And in that very moment, what is that soul drinking in? What is that soul taking in the first time he or she hears the Hare Krishna chant? They save up all their money, they live in Iowa their whole life, and they don't see anything, and then they think, we'll go to Honolulu, and we'll live like a king for a week in a rented place, and rent a car, drive around and see. Maybe some people have this dream sometimes, and they make it to Honolulu, they come around the corner, and I remember we used to chant there on Kalakaua Avenue, and we'd see people the first time out of their own, state or county, and they came to Hawaii for the big experience. They walk around the corner and they see the Hare Krishna chant going, what? And just appreciating for the first time the soul getting this infusion of transcendental sound. And they may not know it at first, but actually there's a register. It registers in their heart. This agyata, unknowingly they get some sukriti. And this goes in the bank account of their heart next. And as the bank account fills up, there's a way in which one becomes qualified. Actually, I heard last night when I was walking, Prabhupada was saying that people sometimes have a sympathy for Krishna consciousness, appreciation. A sympathy or appreciation, they say, oh, this is nice, it's nice. They're not doing it, but they say, oh, I think it's very nice. He said, this is because of Sukriti. They've attained some appreciation because of previous contact, and now they have a predilection, an appreciation for this. So there are different kinds of unintentional chanting which are mentioned. Go back one. First one was this, go back one. Sanketa, unintentionally chanting. So in the story of Ajamila, he unintentionally chanted. He just, in the course of his life, he named his son Narayan. What else would he do? And all throughout, he was saying Narayan, 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 Narayan. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the first time he said Narayan, and he wasn't expecting anything. He wasn't asking that please clear all my sins so I can do whatever I want. That's different, completely different. It goes to motive. In the courtroom, it goes to motive. What was his motive? He meant to do it. Hang him. He didn't mean to do it. Let him go. It's amazing, right? So motive is everything. And he didn't mean to clear his sins. He just innocently named his son Narayan, and he called out Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, and Prabhupada concurs that the First time he said Narayan, he is cleared of all his sins. And all the other times he was simply building up his bhakti. And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, so how is it then that he kept on doing all these things? He was drinking and doing crazy stuff. And Vishwanath says those things were inconsequential because the effect of the holy name took place. And he wasn't trying to clear them. Again, I'm making this point. He was going on chanting innocently. And so Vishwanath and Prabhupada say that this is like a toothless snake. Although it appeared that these things he was doing where he was being bitten over and over again by these sinful activities, toothless snake. Nothing happening. So Sanketa unintentionally, it saved Ajamila. At the time of death, he was saved from a most sinful kind of life. Next. So Sanketa, here's the story of the great Valmiki, who couldn't chant the name of God. He was too sinful. We meet people like this. Say Hare Krishna. Nuh-uh. You could use the same energy to say nuh-uh to just say Hare Krishna. And so Valmiki was a very sinful person, and Narada tried to help him. He's a doctor. Doctors are like, okay, look over there. Crack, whatever they have to do, they do the surgery. So he told them, you chant the name of death. Mara, 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 Mara. You can't do it without saying Rama, because the syllables are what's important. It's in there. So unintentionally, he was chanting and he became the greatest of all devotees. Next. Then parihas, in ridicule, someone says, oh, well, Hare Krishna, you Hare Krishna, ha ha ha. Out of jest even, the Shastra, this chapter is saying that, okay, we'll take it. In fact, I remember myself, I was coming from a music lesson in Berkeley, California with my brother. We used to go see John Dinwiddie. He was our piano teacher. And we were walking home one night, and the devotees used to chant on the Berkeley campus all the time. Every time I go to Berkeley, I think, where's the Hare Krishna? And I drive by and say, what was that? And then we were coming home from our music teacher, and there was two devotees walking, one with a madanga on his back, and they were going home from the Harinam. So to impress my brother, my older brother, I just called out to him and said, Hare Krishna. And he turned around and looked at me like, Hare Krishna, like you really just did it to yourself, You don't know what you just did. So it was kind of like that, Hare Krishna. And I was like, what did I just do? My brother looked at me, yeah, what did you do? Why did you say that? So the holy name's powerful, and whether you say in jest or ridicule, the parihas, it will have this effect. This is namabhas, the effect of the holy name. It will clear your sins. Next. And then there's stoba, which is derisively, the example is given of Shishupal. From the very time he was born, when babies first start to talk, the first words that come out of their mouth, sometimes mama, dada, his first words were blasphemy of Krishna. He was so predisposed to criticizing Krishna. The first words out of his mouth and throughout his life, all he could do was criticize Krishna, but he was saying Krishna, 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 Krishna. So credit where credit is due. He gets credit for that derisive kind of chanting. Jainama deha munivrindagehe janaranjanaya paramakshara krite tvamarararad api manag udiritam. It says in the Shastra, in the Namashtakam, that even if one derisively says the holy name of the Lord, then still he gets this namabhas effect clearing. Next. Hela, neglectfully. If one neglectfully chants Hare Krishna, one gets the effect. Next. Not that we should chant japa like that. My dear Lord, I'm your eternal servant, but somehow or other I've fallen into the ocean of material world. That's the explanation of how we fell into the material world. If in case anybody wants to know or ask at the end of class, somehow or other. So then it's kindly pick me up from this ocean of birth and death and place me as a particle of dust at your lotus feet. This is the prayer of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The mood when one realizes the predicament that I'm in this material world. Next. So Krishna can save the drowning soul from the material world, And by taking advantage of calling out his name, the Shastra says, Apana samsritim goranya nama vivishogranan tata sadyo vimucheta yad bibheti swayambhyam. Krishna is fully present, all his potency, his personality, everything. One should take advantage of this, Bhagavatam says, and call out, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. And when we're chanting, we should think, I'm drowning here in this material world. Krishna, please save me. And he'll come. Next. So in the course of wandering in the material world, Brahmanda Brahmate Kon Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prashadi Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. Those who are getting this kind of sukriti, agyata sukriti, and then they develop a desire somehow in their heart. This is good fortune that I need to find God. And then by God's arrangement, he sends us guru. There are various types of guru. There are Vartmana Pradarshaka Guru, one who shows us the path, who says, hey, you should do something about this. Here's something good for you. You should come here, read this, do that. And that person may not even be following him or herself, but he or she will introduce it to us. And that person is our Vartmana Pradarshaka Guru. Then there's our Shiksha Gurus who we come and we hear from. And then we become oriented towards the spiritual world. No longer interested in trying to adjust my situation in the material world. My goal is going back to Godhead. Then there's the Diksha Guru who gives one the mantra. And which is more important, the seed or the water that goes on the seed? Let's ask our highly esteemed audience, which is it? Can I get a unanimous consent? Both are most important? Okay. Next. So from the Guru, from the Shastra, we get Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha means our relationship. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives the example of the poor man who's suffering, and he doesn't have any prospect in life. He has no money. He doesn't know what he's going to do. And then he meets this all-knowing astrologer who does his chart. And the astrologer says, hey, I got some news for you. You're not actually poor. Your father was the richest person in the whole country, and he left you his fortune. He died, you were estranged, but now we can even see from your chart where the fortune is. And it's nearby, and I can tell you how to dig for it. Don't dig on this side, don't dig on that side. He gives very particular instructions. If you dig on a particular side, which is the side of bhakti, then through the method of bhakti, one can easily come to revive one's relationship. How long does it take a poor man to change his outlook in life when he gets this news? Immediately. You concur? Immediately? When you hear that you're rich, you're not poor? Right away. Okay, next. And so Shraddhanama Bhas, one enters Ado Shraddha Tata Sarasangata Bhajana Kriya. So in the beginning there's a Gyata Sukriti which leads to this kind of faith in the heart that this is a good thing, Krishna conscious, I want to do. And then one comes to Sadhu Sangha, because that's where you want to come and associate with devotees. And you try to sit in close. You want to hear about this. And then when one sits in close for a while, then one develops this very strong conviction that I want to do. I want to be a devotee. So bhajana kriya means then one takes initiation, takes shelter under a spiritual master and says, I'm going to chant Hare Krishna with a firm vow. And so in this Shraddha Namabhas, one has full faith in the name. It means one's not perfect yet. I may have so many anarthas, so many imperfections. I may be very unsteady, but I do have faith that if I continue to do this, I'll attain perfection. And Haridas Thakur says, there are these low-level namabhas, which I named before, out of derision, out of joking, out of accident, and so forth. One says the holy name. These are low-level, and they give liberation. But the Shraddha Namabhas, it actually leads to the perfection of life, prema, because one goes on chanting with a vow under the protection of a spiritual master, and with this firm faith, then one will come into the stage of pure chanting. Next. So Shuddhanam is the perfectional stage when the holy name completely and fully manifests oneself as through Krishna's personality, qualities, and so forth. Next. Pure name. And one attains Krishna prema, one's loving relationship with Krishna next. So here's a diagram. You can keep pushing the button. Actually, that's the world champion eating. He's a world champion eater. There's eating competitions now. And so he can eat, 150 hot dogs in 10 minutes or something like that. They train for this. So I just gave it an example of freedom misused. There's all kinds of things one can do in the material world, all kinds of good causes that one can put oneself to. So here's the soul coming down, and ignoring Krishna is the root cause of everything. By ignoring Krishna, then we come to the next, by pushing the button, and ignorance or ignorance. So from ignoring Krishna, from turning away from Krishna, says the Shastra, that we come to ignorance. We become enveloped in darkness because we've turned away from the light. From that, our original spiritual desires are covered, and we experience material desire, which is counterproductive. And then we are locked in karma. And karma means I accrue such a debt in the material world I can't pay it off. So through karma yoga, I work in such a way to connect everything to Krishna. And that way, from that level, I start to absolve myself, but it's not complete. Then there's jnana yoga, through which I understand my existential position. Through the intellect, I begin to cultivate Krishna consciousness and connect everything to Krishna. But then Dhyan Yoga becomes more internalized, and one begins to look within to find Ishvara, Pranidhan, and give respect to the Lord who's within the heart. But the highest position is through bhakti. Through bhakti, one gives one's love completely, one surrenders one's entire life to Krishna, mind, body, soul. So there's this progression from karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyan yoga. Highest is bhakti yoga. And then we come to this process, which is mentioned in the Holynames Chintamani, that there are, as we take up the process of chanting Hare Krishna, there are these these clouds and mist, Haridas Thakur says. Asat means, asat trishna. Trishna means a taste. So a taste for the temporary, insignificant things in this world. And then there's hridaya darbalya, which means weakness of heart. Although I may even know that what's bad for me, I still can't give it up. And then namaparadha, which means I make offenses against the holy name. So these are what block me. These three categories of clouds and mist, or obstacles, are what block me from the pure name and perfection in spiritual life. So asat trishna, push the button. Okay, we'll say agyata sukriti. Here's the process. We begin agyata sukriti. We get some unknown connection with Krishna consciousness. It accumulates in the heart. Then we meet Guru Krishna. We begin the process bhajana kriya. Seriously, we take initiation. Sambandha gyan. We get infused with this knowledge of my relationship with Krishna. I become a millionaire. I know that I'm actually rich. I'm not poor. Then the namabhas begins to take effect in my life as I do the bhajana kriya, or I'm chanting Hare Krishna. Then I come to the shraddha namabhas, which means with full faith I'm chanting. And then comes the removal, through the shraddha namabhas, this asat trishna, my taste for material things is removed. And this is mentioned in the whole progression of teachings in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, how by hearing about Krishna, gradually one loses one's desire for material things, because the modes of nature diminish. And we see it in ourselves, and we'll see it in others who we give Krishna consciousness to. That inexplicably, these tastes that I had before, for asat, the thirst I had for these things, they become insignificant. Prabhupada this morning was giving an example, the class I was listening to. He said, just like all of you, he said, you won't eat meat. You're not interested in it anymore. You've lost your taste for it completely. And he said, but other people, they have a taste for it. So we actually, through chanting Hare Krishna in this namabhas, this shraddha namabhas, with firm faith, we'll lose our taste for the lower things. And then hridaya darbalya, which means the weakness of heart. This is overcome, Prabhupada mentions, by studying the first 6 verses of the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in which we understand this material world is a reflected vision of the spiritual world. And when we understand that clearly, then we develop detachment, and especially through hearing. Now, it's magical hearing, how it helps us to develop this detachment so we can cut down the tree of material desire. But that's the process. If one goes on hearing about Krishna in all circumstances, every day, regularly, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, worships the Bhagavatam by hearing it every day, then miraculously one's desires to enjoy the material world, and one's inability to overcome those desires, even after understanding that their obstacles will be achieved. And then Namaparadha, this is the offenses in the holy name. There are 10 offenses, 2 of which are most egregious, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. One is to consider the name imaginary, or to interpret it as something lower than it is. And the other is to commit sins on the strength of chanting. In other words, it's grace coming to us, but if I take advantage of that grace, it means, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, that we must suffer in order to overcome those offenses. All the other offenses, he said, can be overcome by continuously chanting. Namaparada yuktanam naman yeva harantyagam. Avishrani prayuktani tanyevarta karanicha. If one is making aparads or offenses in chanting, one should continue chanting, and continuously chanting will remove those obstacles. Except one should be very careful not to develop this motive to cheat, because then one will become subjected to great suffering in order to overcome the aparad. So as one gradually overcomes these various obstacles, then one becomes clear and free. And we'll see what happens next. Shuddhanam, the holy name, appears in its pure form. We actually develop our relationship with Krishna. And even while we're living in this world, the seed of bhakti sprouts. It gets watered by our chanting and hearing process. And then it grows through the universal coverings. It goes through the Brahmanda, the effulgence, through the Brahman effulgence. It goes to the Krishna Loka planet. And there, just like a regular vine, it will attach itself to the lotus feet of Krishna. And it will be there, even walking through Home Depot, and it be connected to the spiritual world. So the Shuddhanam will appear in one's life who goes through this faithful process of chanting Hare Krishna. Next. Krishna Prema, a devout love for God, the perfection of life, all available by chanting Hare Krishna. Go ahead. There he goes. Don't leave him there. There. Ah, okay, yes. You can read the story in the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. This is the picture of Gopakumar going back to Godhead and meeting Krishna in the spiritual world. Next. And there one becomes intimately connected with one's eternal service to Krishna in various kinds of relationships, either as a servant, as a friend, as a parent, as a lover, and so forth. And there's never a dull moment. Now, in the story of Ajamila, there's a few things that are very important, especially in the text itself. There's one very important verse, which is 6 to 9 through 10. And Prabhupada refers, actually he holds off on giving the purport to this verse until the very end. And then he gives an extensive footnote on this particular verse. And I'll read you the translation of the verse. 6 to 9 through 10. translation is, the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna is the best process of atonement for a thief of gold or other valuables, for a drunkard, for one who betrays a friend or relative, for one who kills a brahmana, or for one who indulges in sex with the wife of his guru or another superior. It is also the best method of atonement for one who murders women, the king or his father, for one who slaughters cows, and for all other sinful men. Simply by chanting the holy name of Lord Vishnu, such sinful persons may attract the attention of the Supreme Lord, who therefore considers, because this man has chanted my name, my duty is to give him protection. So in this verse, which pretty much covers most categories of things that you could do wrong, Tad Vishaya Mati means that it attracts the Lord's attention when you chant. Tad Vishaya Mati. The Lord is attracted to the person who chants. And to give you a taste of what that is, because Krishna is so merciful, this is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11 to 55. It says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so kind to the conditioned souls that if they call upon Him by speaking His holy name, even unintentionally or unwillingly, the Lord is inclined to destroy innumerable sinful reactions in their hearts. Therefore, when a devotee who has taken shelter of the Lord's lotus feet chants the holy name of Krishna with genuine love, the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never give up the heart of such a devotee. One who has thus captured the Supreme Lord within his heart is to be known as Bhagavat Pradhana, the most exalted devotee of the Lord. So it's Krishna, the fact is, by chanting the names of Krishna, he's actually attracted to the devotee, even if someone says it incidentally. But then it's saying what to speak if one's really trying. Now, this is an important point. You should remember that Krishna is all-powerful and all-merciful. And he's extending himself to us at every moment. He's never lazy about that. Now, then someone might say that, how should one chant? Mentioned by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, with a service attitude. With a service attitude. This is very effective. Service attitude, not what can I get, but how can I serve? And this is the meaning. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I've served Maya for so long. Now please, Krishna, engage me in your service. Let me serve you. So then someone might say, but it doesn't seem like Krishna's extended himself to me. I mean, I'm chanting and everything like that, but my life is still really messed up. And I have a lot of problems and desires and so forth. So then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur brings out, and I'm saying that Prabhupada is quoting almost verbatim from his purport in the last footnote he gives to this chapter. So there's a time span. You have to be patient. You should have faith that the holy name, in these verses, that it'll have full effect. The holy name will have full effect. More than we can imagine. Not just full effect. We don't even know what the effect is. It's so beyond what we can imagine. Krishna's name is Vanchatita. It means he fulfills your desires beyond what you can even conjure in your own mind. So, now, Vishwanath Chakravarti says, imagine a tree and it develops fruits. They come in their own time. They have to give through the seasons. The seasons have to go by. There's a process, and then the fruits come out. And then he says, wait for it. Wait for it to come out, and keep chanting faithfully. Then he says, Krishna may have various motives for holding back the result for certain devotees. And he gives the example, Bharat Maharaj, he had to take a few lives before he went back to Godhead. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that's because he had a higher goal. He didn't just want liberation, he actually wanted his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this may be one reason that you're held back a little bit, to get a little more experience so you can actually attain the highest goal. So don't complain. Take it as Krishna knows what he's doing and he's preparing you for something much greater. And he even says sometimes he holds back the result of the chanting from some devotees he doesn't give the complete result because he doesn't want to discourage people on other paths. Because in the Shastras is the path of jnana, karma, yoga, and so forth. And if everyone who chants the holy name immediately became perfect, then how would those other people who have chosen those other paths due to their free will actually be encouraged to go on in that way? And as Krishna is samaham sarvabhuteshu, he's giving everyone facility in the material world to do as they wish. So this is one of the explanations of why you may have to wait. So just know that the result is inevitable and it will come to you. And so if we remember that the object of our meditation is all merciful and all powerful, and remember these verses that he's extending himself to us in every way, and especially as we're seriously chanting the holy name, we should remember this. And then develop a service attitude as we're chanting, and then remember to be patient. Take time. Let the result come by its own force, because it will come. And don't necessarily try to rush it. Do everything you can, but don't expect it until it comes of its own accord. And now we'll take some reflections. Yes?
Prabhu, I was reminded of the Harinam when we were doing in Palo Alto. One of the guys actually, he walked past saying, they have nothing better to do. Now I thought that it is so true that we have nothing better than Harinam to do, particularly when we read
so he spoke a sutra.
Yeah.
Yes, I have nothing better to do. Yeah, very good. A few more reflections. What did you hear?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Varsana Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna Varsana, are you back in town?
Yes, I
Haribo! Welcome back. Great to hear your voice. Go right ahead.
After listening to the lecture, I felt that whenever I come to US, I feel that I'm nowhere closer to you, closer to the people, to the devotees, those who are doing so much here. I'm such a fallen soul, I don't know when will that time come that I will get closer to Lord Shri Krishna.
Varshana Devidasi always channels the feelings of Haridas Thakur. It's very much like that. It's a very beautiful sentiment. Varshana, thank you very much. We can't wait to see you.
I'll try my level best to come tomorrow, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Because
all right. Hare Krishna.
My daughter is not well. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, take your time. Welcome back. Hare Krishna. Another reflection? Yes, Kathleen.
So it was funny that you were talking. My husband just asked me the other morning, what do I get out of doing my rounds? And it kind of took me by surprise because I thought I'd get closer to God and I get closer to Krishna, but I think he thinks that, we do yoga asana. And so we get a thinner body or, we get less anxiety or less depression. So I think he was asking me, you're kind of the same. And you're still chanting, but I know I'm getting closer to Krishna.
Nice. Yeah, one can see for oneself. This is actually in a verse in the Bhagavatam, which is Prabhupada quoted quite a bit. Bhakti paryushanu bhava virakti ranyata traisha trika eka kala prapadya manasya yatasnata tushti pushti shud apayonugasam. So this verse gives a comparison of devotional service to eating when you're hungry. And it's this, when you're hungry and you eat food, you get nourishment, satisfaction, and your hunger is eradicated with every bite that you take. And similarly, when you surrender to Krishna, prapadya manasya, then you develop this sense of devotion, bhakti, and then anubhav means that you are, anubhav means that your body moves out of happiness, out of joy, just like dancing. It's a kind of anubhav. You're feeling ecstasy and you think, this is wonderful, so you start, okay, I'll dance. And there are many anubhavs in devotional service, so you're actually moved by this spirit of devotion. And then finally, it says, virakti anyatra, that one becomes unattached to all things that aren't related to Krishna. And this is perhaps one of the most important aspects, because one can notice this from oneself, just as like when you eat when you're hungry and then someone says, you want some more? It's like, no. You say, no, take some more. No. I know I don't need any more. So we become unattached to those things that previously we were attached to. This is a real sign that I don't want that anymore. I'm not interested in it. It's not that I'm holding myself back. I have no more interest in it. And these things come miraculously through chanting. And Prabhupada used to point this out, that oftentimes people would ask him, show us some miracle. Because in India, a lot of times people are oriented towards the yogi comes to town and shows some big miracle and produces some ashes, or gold or whatever, out of the hand. And they say, show the miracle. Let's see, what miracle can you do? And he would point to his Western disciples and say, a year ago, they were addicted to LSD and so many other things, and smoking and this and that, and now they're not. And it's true. Who could give it up? Who could give it up? Even Prabhupada quoted how when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta sent his disciples to England, there was one lord there who was very interested in Krishna consciousness. He had studied a little Indology and so forth, and he was associating with the devotees and said, can you make me a brahmana? And they said, of course, what do you have to do? And then they told him, chant, and here's the regulative principles. And he said, impossible, impossible. But for these, young people, Prabhupada was showing that they just took to the process faithfully, and then they were able to give up things that nobody else can give up. It's very difficult in this world to give up these things. Reflection, yes. A birthday? It's her birthday? Hare Krishna.
I was just thinking sometimes life becomes like for no reason. It becomes like so hectic that you cannot focus on the holy name. And just this morning I was thinking that I'm so diseased that I could not chant with quality. And then, like, which doctor will I go to? Because even to enter into Kaisari, I have to do so many tests before they diagnose and then give the medicine. And I was just so happy to come here that we have a specialist in Silicon Valley, and it's so costly to pay for a specialist outside, but we have one specialist in Silicon Valley, and we have so much access to it, and Krishna arranges these classes, and it was so helpful for me. That right at the time, like helping me to improve the quality of chanting. Thank you for your classes and session.
Hare Avantika? Okay. Yes, Mukharvin.
Just continuing Mataji, one point, like Prabhupada mentioning in Adilila, I read that previously Brahman used to have this, like used to go door to door, and they used to have like medical knowledge also. So he was mentioning. So just continuing.
Actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when telling Sanatana Goswami, he said that when the soul wandering in the material world, he meets a devotee physician, and then he said the physician, he didn't say this, but you could extrapolate. He has a little black bag. And then out of the black bag, he said the two things that he administers, hymns and instructions. So the mantras, they have the power, they have this divyam jnanam, the divine knowledge is in the mantra like a seed. It comes out when it's properly planted. So he gives the seed, and he also gives the instruction, which is like the water. That's sambandha jnana that's mentioned. These two things necessary. Take the seed, the chanting, everything's there in the mantra, but at the same time you have to hear and chant to maintain one's purity of mind to go on chanting, so you don't forget and think that it's something ordinary. Then the cure is there. Yeah.
And also one more point, I like that the answer to Rajesh Prabhu's question about how to create how to a sense of urgency, then you give a very practical answer to create ourselves the force efficiency, like create small goal and try to do that. That is very practical to create sense of urgency because we can't have, you told that we can't have always, it's impossible, and it's not so possible, but by this way we can at least develop the...
Yeah. I found a chart, I might have mentioned this a month or two ago. I found on the internet this chart that you just put in your, let's see, it calculates, days, weeks, months, and so forth from one time period to from one point in time to the next. So I was putting in how many days I have left until I'm 60. And then it told me the number of days. And when I looked at it in those units, and I don't have the figure in front of me, it's written somewhere in my book, but and I said, oh, I have 2,000 days left, then every day seems more significant. And if you just look at it as a whole, it's like, well, I'll probably live, probably forever, but maybe, it's so, 20 years is so much in the future, but it comes so quickly. We always realize this, Nirkula and I, when we travel, especially because we have to leave for the airport. Our house is not that far from the airport, but still, like, when we leave in, like an early morning flight or something like that, we call a cab, and it comes, picks us up. And when the cab comes, you gotta go, because everything's on the line, the ticket, the flight, the whole thing, right? And so we always realize in those last a few minutes how precious time is, the law of forced efficiency. And if you can impose those kinds of things in your life on a regular basis, and you're 5 years older in 5 years anyway, and you build in all these foundational ways in which to water the seed and so forth, then you can look up and say, oh, I made significant progress. I'm different from when I was 5 years ago, and so forth. Yes?
About the physicians, I was remembering the verse we sang right now, like Enichi Oshodhi Maya Nashivaralagi. Like, I have brought the medicine to eradicate the disease of illusion. Now pray for this Harinam Mahamantra and take it. And one more thing, about chanting, Mataji was saying, because of the day-to-day work, we cannot focus always. So sometimes I think mostly I can never focus during chanting how much hard I try to, but there have been maybe in all these years of chanting, or 2-3 years, but maybe sometimes for a few mantras, there has been times I've noticed when the chanting comes from the heart rather than the mouth, and the satisfaction, or it's so powerful that whatever maybe for those few mantras, that is what gives us the impetus to continue with the chanting.
That's a nice point, and I like to make this point that try every day to get at least one mustard seed of that kind of inspiration. And actually, if you get it once in your lifetime, it's enough. Out of all your chanting, one moment of clarity where you actually feel the holy name, or you see there's no other vibration like this, there's something extraordinary in it. Any kind of experience that one gets from that is indelible. One can draw on that at any time, and there's so much benefit in that. It's worth trying for on a regular basis. So in the daily chanting, one should set oneself up in such a way that, please let me get at least one mustard seed of this kind of connection to the holy name, and try and try. And even in so many years, if you can get one or two experiences like that, it will propel you forward in your devotional life. Harivamsha Prabhu, and then Rajesh.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for wonderful class. I really liked, again, you repeating the crane example, and was just meditating that we anyway have to fight many battles, so best to choose the right battles.
Don't major in minor things.
Don't major in minor things.
Nice. And Rajesh?
Prabhuji, I was just thinking that how over the period of time, mind become more polluted, and with the kids you could see how pure they are. Any special tune which you sing or something, Avantika picks, and she's so notorious in repeating that thing in the home all the time. And that tells you because of the impurity in our mind, we are not able to relish that for a longer time, but she could, because she is still not. Yeah, and that tells you that could be your consciousness as well. So when sometimes one tune, she will just keep on doing it, and wherever, that makes me feel that probably could be my consciousness too one day, maybe,
Nice. Observing different states of consciousness and how wonderful it would be to have pure consciousness, to absorb everything. A couple more, Shalabahu and then Mukaravinda.
In his speech in Stanford, Radhananda Maharaj was saying, the most powerful thing in this world and most valuable thing in this world is the Krishna's name. It is powerful. And so I was thinking, after Mataji was saying, her husband was saying, what do you get? My father used to ask that question too. I think it is everything what we are getting, that is from the chanting, the Krishna.
So the answer is everything.
Everything. Yes.
There you go. Okay, Mukaravind.
Thank you for giving the mantra Naam Bina Kichu Ahikon Nahiko Ar Chodak One Maja. That is like
set yourself up in your meditation. Yeah.
And the second thing that you told about like how the forgiveness is the like emblem of advancement, and how like some people judge by past, maybe more advanced judge by present, but those who are really advanced, they judge by the future. And actually that is what like fan the spark that you always teach us, like how to seeing the future and then you fan the spark in others. So
you should see yourself like that too, because there's a way in which I can not be compassionate to my own self. And there's kinds of depression in which one can feel low self-esteem or that I'm no good, I can't do anything, and then maybe be dissuaded from the path of devotional service. But one should show compassion to oneself first, actually, and realize, okay, I'm in whatever situation I'm in now, but my potential is something that is very great, just by reconnecting with Krishna, by his mercy, by the mercy of the spiritual master and so forth. I can actually Mukham karoti vachalam pangam lungayate gurum yat kripa tamaham vande shri gurum dinataranam. By the mercy of Guru Parampara, a lame man can cross mountains. A blind person can see the stars in the sky and so forth. So all this is possible. I remember my own potential and try to give mercy to myself. So on that note, yes. Okay.
Thank you. Prabhuji, when you said Ajamil's story that even just the first time he chanted the name of Narayan itself, all of his sins was taken away. So we try to chant and we chant Krishna's names many times. So what is it that, it doesn't take effect in our lives that Ajamil did in one mantra? What is it?
Ajamil chanted once, but it didn't appear to take effect in his life either. He went on with his sinful activities. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that they weren't having an effect anymore, because it was like a toothless snake. They were not affecting him because of his chanting. And his subsequent chanting was also developing his bhakti. So there's a way in which, even after one surrenders to Krishna, even in bhajana kriya, one takes to devotional service with a vow and says, I'm surrendering. This is Atma Samarpanam. I'm giving myself in initiation to the Guru as a representative of Krishna and so forth. I'm putting myself before the court. I give up. I'm bankrupt and I can't handle the debt anymore. I'm surrendering to you. And even then, there's still this residual effect of the sinful activities that is explained by Sridhar Swami, the great Bhagavatam commentator, to appear like sinful reactions. But he says actually what they are the, because Krishna knows that there's a residual effect because of our connection with the material world, he brings these particular reactions to our life as a curative. And they are specifically designed to diminish our desire our very particular desire, every living entity has a very particular way in which he or she wants to enjoy the material world, to diminish that desire altogether so that I can completely give myself to Krishna. So it's not the same. The apparent reactions that are coming to a devotee are not the same as those which come to somebody who has no connection with Krishna at all through devotional service. So whatever you're getting is whatever appears to be continuing course of reactions from the material world is Krishna. It's not Maya. Okay? Okay. So thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ajamila ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripasindhabeva patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Anantakoti Vaishnavini ki jai. And now we'll carefully put away all the books and asanas, and we're going to have a Guru Puja followed by Krishna Prasadam.